He got his magic numbers from?
After talking to a lot of people is, Strickland carried the South.
He didn't anticipate anyone running calculations, did he?
I don't think so.
But see, Robbie went all
They just
up
look
into
for
Mount
blame
Petite.
We're gonna do that.
Posted a piece
They-
about
and they
their
know
personnel records, and
Steve tried to get.
wasn't that pretty. I mean, of the two of them, he had more issues in his record.
Say the
I think
same.
he would make a good grunt,
Like some attorney firms, like, how do you prove it's their
but I
same?
don't
Or
think
second or
he's,
third
Live by
command.
the
I don't think he's a good leader.
The fact is his house is non-conforming.
Through a process to hire a chief here.
Yeah, remind me of.
Oh, Jackson.
Jackson.
Okay, okay. I know.
There's no 17-story building.
Steve, you doing okay?
You?
Good.
You?
No complaints, no complaints. It is, it is, it is.
I use a toothbrush and a dial soap. Pretty good.
Soon be on the TV, Mr. Kincaid.
Are we?
Well, not yet.
Clean things on stage.
Any minute, any
I
second.
try to clean it every weekend, but I forgot.
601 on the
I
phone.
have one like that material she has. It's like an olive.
They're not looking at the clock.
I'll go up there and ask him one.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. That's right. You put the fear in them.
Well, they're training upstairs with a new member.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 25th monthly meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of St. Augustine Beach, and we'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Volleyball.
Yeah, go Braves.
Okay, if we could have our roll call.
Mr. Kincaid,
Present.
Ms. Odom,
Here.
Mr. Einhauser,
Here.
Ms. Longstreet,
Here.
Mr. King,
Here.
Mr. Mithers,
Here.
Mr. Pratus,
Here.
Mr. Saras,
Present.
and Mr. Tisdale.
Okay, now we have approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on July 21st. Does anybody have any additions or deletions or comments on the minutes? Anybody have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second. All I have is let's keep them shorter. Long.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we have time for public comment for anything not on the agenda for this evening. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we will move on. New business? Item A.
All right, a proposed residence at 2 Quail Court, as you see on the overhead, has a 60-inch tree right in the way of the house. The applicants are asking to remove the tree in accordance with the city's land development regulations.
No opposition to the request?
Always said anything to us.
Okay.
And we do have just a proposed rendering, so.
And it looks like the tree is pretty much right in the center of everything.
Yes, sir.
On the rendering, how high is the roof? I couldn't read the number.
I believe it appears to be about 29 feet or so, 28 or 29.
Okay, thank you, because I
You're welcome.
couldn't, even with a magnifying glass, I don't know.
Well, hopefully the plans, when we get them, come in a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger, I hope so, for your sake.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Law? Are the applicants here want to speak?
Matt Connor with M. O'Connor Construction. These are my clients. I'm here to represent Richard and Kathy White at 2 Quail Court. We played around with this footprint of this house as much as we could, but as you see, no matter if we flipped it, shifted around, the 60-inch tree still fell in pretty much the middle of the footprint of the house. We did try to position it as best as we could to save several other larger trees on the lot to minimize the impact. But this is kind of where we best fit, or see it best fit on the lot. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. So I'm here to answer any other questions.
Any questions from the board?
No, you did a good job. You saved some really big trees,
Right,
too,
which-
in the back, so.
Thank you.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the tree removal and a second. Any comment on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, the next tree removal has been withdrawn from this month by Generation Homes. The ARB at Anastasia Dunes wants Mike Stoffer to revisit the site plan. So they are probably going to come back next month. So that leads us into an ordinance that the commission and my department have been working with. There's been an ongoing issue between residents at Pyrus Street and Bluebird Lane regarding the use of a dead-end street to cut through the back of their property. It is not the intent of a dead-end right-of-way to be utilized for that. So, unfortunately, we had no ordinances at the time. So for the last 2 months, we've been at the commission working on this one. It's a very simple ordinance, and it does begin the process of rights-of-way permitting, which will give the Public Works Director a little more leeway and a little more control over what's happening in the city. So the commission's asking for your recommendations.
Could you explain a little bit more what happened, what brought us to this stage?
About a year and a half ago, there was a house being constructed on the north end of Florida Avenue, the northeast side. It was one of the last houses out there. There was some issues with the time it took to build the single-story residence, just because of personal reasons. So the residents on the other side, in the Island Hammock subdivision, there was just a lot of bickering and really just not adult-like behavior going on. Then as the house was completed, other residents on Pyrus Street started objecting to the putting a trailer to get tree branches out of the backyard to get down to Pyrus Street, just because the house is, the way the lot's shaped, they couldn't get around very simply. But nonetheless, it is not the intent to cut through a dead-end street into the backyard of another subdivision. So this has been going on for about a year. The mayor's had meetings with them. They've come to the commission. There was talk of erecting a simple barricade like we see at some of our dead-end streets. At that point, I believe that has been withdrawn because the applicants, or the constituents in Island Hammock have created a fence. So the problem essentially appears to be resolved after several months and many police visits. This was very extensive, and a lot of police time was spent there along with my department's time. So this will give us the right-of-way saying there is no access through dead-end streets except for government vehicles and by special permitting, where the Public Works Director will control it. At that point, my department will issue the permit based on the Public Works Director, because we control the software that issues the permits for the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wasn't there at one time on Island Hammock, weren't they going to build a pool there, and wasn't that?
They were talking about a pool, but at this time, there's
They
been
started
no,
clearing stuff.
yeah, there has been no submittals to my department regarding a pool at this time.
Okay.
So they're asking for our comment on this proposal.
Yes, sir, any modification to the Land Development Code requires the input of the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay.
The commission has seen this 2 months in a row, and last month was this month was a 5-0 vote to keep it moving as written.
And then they added on page 4, the addition in red.
The addition in red is actually a code tracking through Microsoft Word, so if I make a change to original code, it comes up in red until I decide to accept it, It just makes it easier for the board to be able to see instead of reading the whole code.
Thank you.
Is there a way to actually allow permanent access on a right-of-way? In a situation
Not on a
where-
dead-end street, no. There is an actual easement through the back of Island Hammock, but it's not declared, given the age of the subdivision and the plats, that it's a non-access easement. So it's an easement, but nobody really knows what it's for. It's basically the setback easement, is just how they did the whole subdivision. But like I said, this will stop the dead, at least give the Public Works Director and the attorneys the mechanism to begin the process. Because at this point, we could go to the Code Enforcement Board.
No, I'm asking more in terms of if in some time in the future they wanted to allow someone to, other than on a temporary basis, like allow them access to their backyard through another neighborhood. Is there a method to do it?
I would say they'd just have to appeal the decision of being rejected to the Planning and Zoning Board. Then this board would have to allow it as a variance to the code. And then if the Planning and Zoning Board saw fit not to grant that variance, they could appeal it again to the City Commission. Then if they didn't like that decision, then they have to go to the circuit courts. So there's always in my opinion, you can apply for a variance to anything in the code.
Brian, this doesn't affect any setbacks or variances for the right-of-way out of a dead-end street?
No, sir, that just says you can't just drive through the government property and into the back of another subdivision. And keep in mind, if you recall, last year, possibly the year before, we did pass a ordinance regarding driveways in the right-of-way, that they're limited to 18 feet in width. So if we have a secondary driveway, it's very possible that that's going to exceed the 18 feet allowed.
I guess my question was if, in another situation, not specifically this one, if it backs up to someone's property and they're seeking a variance for whatever reason and it encroaches in that zone, is this going to affect that at all?
I would say if the applicants demonstrated an undue hardship or denied use of their land by not allowing the secondary driveway, then the Planning and Zoning Board would have to agree with the applicant's request
As a variance.
as a variance. And like I said, this is simply just because the code didn't really say you couldn't drive through a dead-end street. And we went through this not too long ago with sand dunes, if we recall. Just because the code didn't say it, we were limited by what we could do. So we changed the code.
Any other questions for Mr. Law? No other questions? Anybody have a motion for the,
I make a motion to pass this along as it reads.
we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, that's all of our new business. Oh, wait, no.
Getting to be
One more piece of new business. Just for information, our October 20th meeting, because of voting, is going to be rescheduled for October 13th. That's other new business. Any old business for the board?
Just want to make sure that at least 4 people can come though, right? The next meeting, we want to make sure that, so everyone, at least 4 of you guys are going to be here.
Anybody not going to be available on October 13th that they know of right now?
Good.
Oh, we're
I'll
good.
be here.
Is that- Okay.
As they say, what is it? Goodwill? How do you say that? And there's no old wives' tale in it.
Any old business on the board? We know when the donut shop's going to open?
I was there the other day. I forget why, but they said about 2 months. They're moving along now. We spoke with the company who's going to install the palm trees in the Avenue of Palms and start the landscaping. The inside's, it's painted, it's trimmed out. I think we have 2 inspections tomorrow, most likely for the kitchen hood system.
They know they can make donuts without palm trees, right?
Whoa, 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 the Avenue of Palms must go on as planned.
Okay, any other old business? Any comment from the board? I'm sorry.
The only thing, on 13th Street, they've closed the sidewalk over on what they're doing on 13th Street. They've taken out the barrier stuff, but they've actually, I don't think legally closed the street. They've kind of put a couple of barricades right there on 13th Street.
Over at Oceans 13?
Yes, so no one.
We'll look at it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, what are they doing there?
They had to, well, keep in mind, leave that off the
That doesn't
record.
help.
Can we talk about Ocean's 13 because it's being appealed? All right, I'm being advised not to speak too much on Ocean's 13 because there's an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Board's decision
I
for the next
understand.
commission meeting.
Even though they're still working on it, there's an appeal, I thought they should have stopped work. if they're-
No, ma'am, there's no legal mechanism I'm aware of to stop work just because somebody appeals a decision. Now, if the commission does decide to override the Planning and Zoning Board's decision, then they will have to restore the building. The contractor was made aware of the appeal the day it happened. So he has chosen to proceed as planned. But whatever we build, we can unbuild.
Okay, but you will check on the barricades?
Yes,
and
ma'am, I'll send code enforcement out there tomorrow morning.
All right,
Can
thank
you just not get down your street, in and out of your street?
No, it's the sidewalk, so
Oh, sidewalk,
everybody that
okay.
wants to walk or bike,
Can't, okay.
and it's so busy, you know, on A1A right now, it's kind of a hazard.
Yeah, it's
Block
dangerous.
it off with all the dirt, or is it just barricades?
They've taken all of the stacked pieces up, so there's dirt, and then
different.
they've just kind of decided to block it off themselves with little barricades and
With the pylon.
Oh, yeah, that's.
piling and stuff.
Oh, okay,
Go by there on your way home, you can see.
yeah. Any other old business or board comment? Anything for the good of the order? Okay, we're gonna adjourn the meeting at 6:17.
Wow. Got to be a record, Mr. Kincaid.
I think so. I think that's the record.